Clown virgins, clown virgins. We're getting together to make the world better. Clown virgins, clown virgins.
Oh, goodness gracious. Hello.
Oh, hello. Who have we got here? Oh, I see
Do feel,
Monica.
do feel free to turn on your camera so we can see your beautiful faces.
I see Lucy, Ari, Moa, Maya.
Very, very exciting to see all these beautiful faces from all
So
over the
good to
world.
see you all.
Hello, Patricia, by the way. Patricia, this is Candy.
My name is Candy in the true sense of the word, candy as in floss. Okay, just you remember that.
Don't be
Never
forgetting
tasted
that.
candy like it.
Oh,
One second.
uh,
Sorry, I'm late. Sorry.
it's okay. We've got a little time. We've got a little time to arrive into this session. And I should tell you that this is going to be a little bit of an interactive session where you get a chance to try something out later. So you might need some paper and some pens. And if you've got some colourful pens, then do get those together because it's going to be a little bit creative, which is fun, isn't it, for a conference to do something a little bit creative?
Do love creativity.
Hmm. And a lot of clowns. I'm hearing there's going to be a lot of clowns here, and I do love clowns. Do you, Candy?
Oh, well, I just love clowns. I mean, I've worked with so many in the industry.
Oh,
I could tell you many a story about a clown or two.
oh yeah.
I've got, really intimate with a few clowns in my
Okay.
time,
No,
you
I don't think we
know.
need to hear that. No, not at this time of the day.
Okay. Too much too soon? Is that right, Patricia?
Tad too soon for the
Okay, I'll just
love life confessions of what you've done with clowns. We don't
Well,
need to know that.
I don't do any holding back, do I?
No,
You know that.
no,
But
it's quite
you
clear.
just tell me what's appropriate and all.
Okay. Well, I know
So,
all about that. Now, knackered mum, are you ready to join
it,
us?
nearly. I'm sorry, I haven't had a chance to check my diary. So what's this? What
Oh,
we?
this is a conference. It's
Oh
a
shit.
clown conference, which is just bonkers. I don't often
Okay,
get to do a lot of clown
I'm still,
conferences.
I'm still in
Um,
my pajamas. I'm really sorry. I'll be
uh,
just 2 minutes. Just
okay,
1 minute. 1 minute. One
sort
minute.
yourself out. And anybody else who's coming in late, it's
Isn't
okay. It's
it
okay.
the
We've got
best?
plenty of time to cover all the material that we're going to be covering in this session. Now, you will need some paper and some pens and some felt tip pins. And if you would like to tell us
Do I
where you
need paper and
are,
pen? Do I
you
need
are
paper?
going to need that. Yes, yes, knackered mum. Do make sure you've got that. Yes. If you want to tell us where you are in the world, please feel free to just type us a little message in the chat box and make sure you send it to everybody so we can all see who's here and where you
Oh,
are in the world. I'm
Just got
eagerly
a
looking at
nappy. Can I
there.
write on the? Can I write on this? Is that okay?
this is Monica and Carly. This is Dan in Montreal. This is
Oh,
ooh,
Tennessee,
Jessica in London.
California. Oh, Chicago.
Oh my
I'm
goodness
loving this. So
gracious.
international.
Look at this. Quite unbelievable. I'm astounded. Well, throughout this session, if you would like to have your cameras on, it would be so lovely for us to be able to see your beautiful faces. And also, we understand if you would prefer to have them off, it's okay. It's all right. But if you can have them on, it would be very, very beautiful. We're about to get started. Just when knackered mum is kind of got herself together there. How are you doing,
Yeah.
knackered mum? Got
Need my
everything?
glasses. Just need my glasses. Can't find my glasses.
Okay. Okay.
Um.
Have you
Oh,
I
tell
don't know
me
if you
about it. Eh?
Shit. Ow, shit. Ow. 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 Okay. Right. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, is everybody ready? Okay, have a little cheese and pickle sandwich then, and then that is the code word to make all of this nonsense go away. And we will begin the session proper. So, welcome,
Got one in the fridge.
welcome to this session titled Clowning, Fooling, and Internal Family Systems. Now, before we get going, raise your hand if you know what internal family systems is. Got some hands here. We've got some hands. Good, 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 good. Very good. Now raise your hands if you've got no idea what I'm talking about. Wow, looks like everybody has some sort of an idea. A little idea. Okay, well, you're in luck because we're going to be telling you quite a lot about internal family systems today. And we're going to be telling you about how we've been bringing together internal family systems and clowning and fooling in a series of experiential embodied labs. So, just as a little header, internal family systems, for those who don't know, is a system of therapy where you get to know your inner parts. And it has to be said that right now I am Patricia, and actually I'm one of Holly Stoppit's many parts. And you also met Candy and the mum as well, the knackered mum. And they are some of our parts that we have externalized and found costumes for. So I'm just going to see if I can remove Patricia and find my way back to Holly Stoppit because I had a little bit of enough of doing that now. Let's just have a little look here, see if I can find myself again. Oh, there we are. Hello, everyone. I've got to take the jacket off as well. The jacket seems to be the thing. So I am Holly Stoppit, and I'm one of the research group. There's actually 4 of us in this research group. We haven't got Angela with us today because she's not very well. But we'll all introduce ourselves in a little moment. But I want to just begin by sort of giving you a bit of a potted history of us and what we've been up to together. So there's 4 of us. We live in 4 different decades. We have somebody in their 30s, somebody in their 40s, somebody in their 50s, and somebody in their 60s. And we've been hanging out together since the pandemic in various different ways, exploring how clowning, fooling, and IFS come together. So during the pandemic, we met on Zoom and we started playing together on Zoom. And then in 2024, we did a play day. 3 of us were in a room in Bristol, and one of us was beaming in on Zoom. And we started to play with different ways to embody our parts, play with our parts, and using artwork and dance and embodiment. And we loved it so much that later that year in 2024, we did a 4-day lab in a clown house in Nottingham. The 4 of us came together to see what we could do with these forms. And we liked it so much that in April 2025, we came together to do another 4-day lab at a retreat centre in Yorkshire. And so a big part of our group ethos is about radical inclusion. So we co-create the conditions that allow us to show up just as we are. And in these conditions, we play and we reflect and we support each other to grow and to learn and to discover more about ourselves. And the discoveries that we've made through our research labs have informed our own personal practice and our professional practice. And it's kind of moving out into the world in many different exciting and wonderful ways. So that's just kind of a little potted history of us. And as we go through today, by the way, feel free to ask us questions in the chat box and we'll try and pick up on them as we can. But yeah, there'll be a space for a Q&A at the end of this session. But yeah, I'm going to hand over now to Saskia Solomons to introduce yourself. Thank you, Saskia.
There we go. Thanks, Holly. Thanks, Professor Patricia, for keeping us all in order. Hi, I'm Saskia. I am a quarter of this gang, and I have a background in Lecoq-based physical theatre, devising, made solo shows, company shows, toured stuff, that kind of thing, storytelling, facilitating. I've been recently teaching a lot of neutral mask, which has been really wonderful. And I'm also an IFS practitioner, so I offer that tool to people in a private practice. And one thing I should mention is I have very much a knackered mum part because I am also mum to the ultimate clown teacher. His name is Eli and he's 9 months old.
Thanks, Saskia. Over to you, Sarah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah, and my background is initially as a drama therapist, and then I discovered IFS, became an IFS therapist, and assistant trainer in the field, so all things IFS. And I think the main thing I want you to know about me is that my middle name is creativity. I just love creativity in many, many forms, embodied forms, but also like 2D forms. So you will get a chance later on to see a bit of my painting. Over back to you, Holly.
Da, da, da. Ta-da! I am Holly Stoppit, and I was brought up in the circus, and I have been clowning since the age of 6. And I retrained as a drama therapist, and I brought together clowning and drama therapy for a long time, calling it clownotherapy. And then what happened? Oh, and then in the last few years I've been training as an IFS therapist as well, and now I've gone down the somatic IFS route, so real body base parts work. And so yeah, I'm bringing all those practices together along with fooling, which is my main performance practice, which is a form of theatre, improvised theatre, solo, where you embody all your parts on the stage. So yeah, enough about me. Our final member, who's not here today, unfortunately, because she's not very well. I'm going to show you a picture of her so that she's here with us. Let's see if I can find her. Okay. Ta-da! This is Angela Hayes. Angela Hayes is a facilitator, community host, co-creator, and coach who found a way into clowning in midlife. For over 3 years, she has been living with chronic illness, deepening her spirituality and playing with expressive arts and movement with mindful, slow gentleness. Our Angela, who can't be here today. So, back to IFS. We're going to go a little bit more into detail about what it is, just to give you a little bit of an overview to see what we've been mashing together with clowning and fooling. So I'm going to hand over to you, Sarah, for that.
Okay, thank you. So first slide, please, Holly. And that's a wonderful one of Angela, our lovely Angela. And yay, that's the one. It's coming. Great, thank you. So just to say that I only have 10 minutes, so this is going to be a very quick dip in the water, a whistle stop tour of IFS. And just to say that Holly does have a list of resources later on if you're interested in knowing more about it. So the key things to say about IFS. First of all, I'm going to start with a question. Next slide, please, Holly. Have you ever felt pulled in 2 directions at the same time? Maybe there's one part of you that felt it had to do one particular thing, and another part that almost pulled against it and wanting to do something else. For example, there might be a part of me that wants to eat something in the fridge, and there might be another part of me that doesn't want me to. So that's an example. So we all have this idea that we have parts inside us, inside our systems. And next slide, please. Okay, so what is IFS? So IFS is this premise that we all have parts, that multiplicity is natural, and that we have an inner family, a bit like our own families. Some get on and some don't. But all parts have positive intentions. And each of these parts, I think the main thing to get across is that they have their own thoughts, feelings, and roles. And multiplicity is natural. So we aren't meant to be one mono mind. It is a natural thing. Even as far back as the ancient Greeks were talking about parts inside us, different ways of being, multiplicity. So it's not a sign that we're, I don't know, very seriously ill, like with, I don't know, some like schizophrenia or whatever. It's a natural state and way of being. Okay, next slide, please. I just wanted to show you that because I like it and it's kind of funny. And it sort of expresses this idea that we all have lots of parts inside us. Okay, so hope you find it funny too. Okay, so We all have parts. I've been mentioning this word parts. We're going to say this word quite a lot during this workshop. But parts do different things. And this particular set are called protectors. And protectors or protective parts are there to keep us safe. They might do things like push us to achieve, sometimes criticize us, or I don't know, we might avoid certain situations, or they might even try and help us distract. But always their intention is to look after us and to keep us safe. So, for example, like a critical mother, let's take the example of a critical mother. She, although it might be really unbearable to hear, what she really wants is the best for her child. So she keeps on, she uses criticism as a way, a strategy to help get the best for her child. Protectors often get what they don't want. Here's a key thing to say. So if they're trying to avoid shame, they sometimes get shame. The other thing to say is they're often young and they don't know another way of how to do things. And the next slide will show you just some particular parts that I'm sure you're going to recognize, probably like a critical one. Yeah, we all get that, a critical one, striving one, maybe a tired one. Saskia, you know about that tired one in particular, anxious, etc., etc. I also know about a people-pleasing one and one that is a perfectionist. So those are the types of perfective ones. And then next slide. We have another group of parts which are called termed exiles, and it means that, you know, as in the meaning of the word exile, they're kind of banished from consciousness, from taking over, because often they carry a lot of pain, a trauma, grief, fear, shame, loneliness, and our protective system is quite frightened of them and does not want them to come into consciousness because we might collapse. We might not be able to cope. We wouldn't be able to function in the world. So they try and banish them out of the way. But the thing about exiles is that they want to come up. They want to come to light. They want to be healed. And they don't want to be carrying whatever pain they're carrying. They want to offload it. Okay, thank you. And to the next slide. We also have at the core of who we are this thing called a self. You know, like when we feel ourselves, it's not a part. It is kind of like our wholeness, our essence of who we actually are. So when we are connected to self, when we can listen to parts without being overwhelmed, we can build connection and trust, and we can help them unburden their beliefs. So beliefs such as like, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy. And when that happens, then we can come back to much more harmony and self-leadership. Next slide, please. And so the aims of IFS are to free our parts from these extreme roles and beliefs, such as I'm not good enough, and to build internal connection and relationship, and therefore to create more harmony and balance in which we can lead and live our lives with hopefully more spontaneity, more creativity, and so on. And next slide. So I really want to stress that IFS is more than a therapy. Okay, so it's a psycho-spiritual model. For me, it's a way of life. It can be applied to all of these things. So performance, clowning, education, leadership, business, community, whatever it is, we can apply it to life. So yeah, if you haven't heard of it, check it out. And final slide. And as I said, it was a whistle-stop tour. So in short, in summary, the key bit, the takeaway around IFS is about building internal relationship. So I don't know if you've ever read Lord of the Flies. I had to do it for O level, showing how old I am. But Lord of the Flies is where these children are left on a desert island and they're kind of all doing all kinds of manner of awful things to each other, including like trying to eat each other, bullying each other. It's all about power and domination. Um, and and what we're doing, and it's a bit like our systems without self leadership, the same kind of thing. So what we're aiming to do is to reparent all these lost little parts that need someone to lead. They need the parent to come home. So yeah, because it's scary. It's scary trying to manage, and then there can be more balance. And so that's, yeah, key takeaway. If we can build internal relationship, what happens on the inside as we begin to know ourselves, we then can take to the outside, to the world, to the bigger self, to the wider world, and we can put that kind of compassion, that love, or our kind of our, I don't know, juiciness out there into the world, to hopefully make a better world. And believe me, do we need it right now? And that is it from me. Thank you for listening.
Oh, thanks, Sarah. We've actually got a couple of minutes. Like, if there's any like questions or comments or clarifications, in a moment we're going to do an experiential exercise with you where you get to kind of explore your own parts. But yeah, if there's any kind of pressing questions or like something that you want to have clarified, then you can type us a message in the chat or you can unmute and say it out loud.
I was just wondering, like, and maybe you can just say, even from an experience, like within protectors, like kind of maybe what would be the max? Like, how many protectors might you have, or how many exiles? Or
I love this, and that your question's been echoed in the chat as well. Somebody in the chat said, "How many
Yeah,
parts have you found
yeah.
so far?" Sarah, what do you think?
Lots, lots and lots and lots. So I've been in my own IFS therapy and I'm still discovering more and more parts. I think, because our parts get frozen at different ages, they take on roles at different ages to protect. So it is normal to have lots and lots and lots. It doesn't mean to say we are ill at all. It's a
right.
natural way of being. And luckily we have a lifetime to get to know them.
I'm working with a client one-to-one. So I do this work in the studio where I get people to embody their parts and they map out their parts on the ground. So they have little labels on the ground for each of their parts. It's called assembling your inner cast, this process. And there's this one person that I'm working with who's got 34 parts. And so we're looking at how those 34 parts all relate to each other and how he relates to his parts. And it's a lot to kind of keep hold in. As a facilitator, I'm kind of having to track all 34 of them, but that's the most out of all the clients that I'm working with. That's the most that have come into the studio in one go, but mostly we're working with sort of 12 to 15 in one go. But yeah, 34 is a new record for me. How about you, Saskia?
Yeah, I was just thinking, there was a part of me then that just went, only 34. Oh dear. Like, oh, I was like, it's okay. It's just in the room at that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and I don't really know if I have an answer, but there's one in the chat here which just says in capital letters, millions of parts. And yeah, because I think also, you know, there's our biographical parts, but then there's also ancestral parts that you can go back and even forward in time. So it's, I think the systemic nature also of IFS means that we are, of course, working with our own individual systems, but they ricochet out into the world, which is why I think it's such a marvelous model, because we're not seen as sort of isolated as islands. It's like we osmose. you know. So yeah.
And one last question that we're going to pick up on, and then Saskia is going to jump into the next bit, which is this. Would you say that whenever there is a shock or trauma in your history timeline, that part may arise as a way to manage that shock? Yeah, often more than one. Often you'll get a series of protectors all popping up in that moment going, I know how to deal with this. I know how to deal with this. I know how to deal with this. And they all have completely different strategies to deal with the same trauma. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Just
yes, yeah, go Sarah.
yeah, just to add, the motto of our protectors is never again. Are we going to let that happen? That's what they say. Mm.
Ooh, there's a great question just at the bottom which says, I'm curious how IFS ideas in formal have changed your clowning practice. Well, you're in the right place, my friend, Avna.
Yeah, I mean, I think I forgot to give the outline of the session. We were about to do an experiential, and then Sarah and Saskia are both going to give some vignettes about what we've been discovering in our research labs. So you're going to get to find out what we've been exploring. But first, over to you, Saskia, for an experiential.
Thank you, and thanks everyone. I'm really enjoying these questions and all these curiosities that are flying around. Okay, so I'm going to introduce a thing called parts mapping. Um, and I'm going to do a little demo first, and then I'm going to invite you guys to join in your own spaces. Obviously, this is an invitation, and if you choose not to do it, that is absolutely up to you. You will need something to write on and a pen or pens if you have some colors available, even better. If you don't worry. And I'm going to invite you to draw a kind of gingerbread human, like a little bit like, there we go. So this is my fabulous artistic creation, but something like a kind of, yeah, like a sort of gingerbread human. And it might be that you don't, when you come to do it, you actually don't want to use a gingerbread human and you can do it your own way, and that's fine. But I find it helpful and I think it's a useful starting point. So I'm going to do a little demonstration and then I'm going to lead you into this process. So what I'm going to do is, I always had to take off my glasses for some reason. So I'm just going to take a moment to kind of, yeah, to just drop into my internal space. And this is me demoing, so you don't need to do it right now. I'm just going to show you what we're going to do. I'm going to invite you to drop into your internal environment. And I'm just going to, yeah, maybe suggest that we take a couple of deep breaths and you find a comfortable position. And then just to start noticing what's happening here on the inside. And when I say what's happening, I mean you might notice that you have a thought, or you might notice a physical sensation somewhere in your body, or maybe an emotion, or maybe a memory pops up. These different parts of us can take lots and lots of different forms. So essentially, as soon as you notice something that's happening on the inside of you, so for example, what am I noticing? Yeah, noticing this kind of there's like a sort of like fizzy, like a sort of fizziness in this like center part of my body, like a kind of like feeling. So then I'm gonna take my little gingerbread person and I'm gonna grab a color, and it might be that this part of you has a very specific idea about which color they want to be, but don't worry, if you don't have that color, you can just use whatever you have. So I'm gonna, this feels like, so it feels like a kind of orangey. So I have got some colors, some color pens here. So I'm just gonna take my orange and I'm just gonna, this caveat, this does not require any drawing skills. I'm just gonna put the energy onto the paper. So it's not about drawing it cleverly. If you have an amazing artist part that wants to draw it, fine. But it's really about putting the energy of the part onto the paper. So
Really quick, sorry, the energy of the part of where it is correct in your body. Okay, I'm just making sure.
exactly. So yeah, so I kind of noticed this like fizzy, this kind of like fizziness in my center. So I've just put it there as a kind of script, as this kind of scribble. So it's really about, yeah, it could be a dot, it could be a mark, it could be a scribble. It really doesn't matter what it looks like. It's about, yeah, putting the energy and marking it on your body if you notice it in your body. If you don't notice it in your body, don't worry, it's fine. There are lots of people who can't feel their parts in their body, and it's really not an issue. You might decide to put them around, or you might just decide to use a blank piece of paper and you just do it your own way. You might also notice that there are things that feel like they're kind of around you. So you might be like, oh, I don't know, it feels like there's something behind, like a kind of, I don't know, like an energy or a shape, and you might want to feel into the kind of space around your body. Once you've marked your part down on your paper, then you just turn back inside again. So you come back and you notice the next. So I'm noticing that my heart is beating quite fast. So I'm going to take my red. Red just felt like I wanted to do it. And I'm going to mark my red beating heart on my little guy. And that's the process. So it's about dropping in, taking it, and it might be that it takes you some time to notice. It might be that there's like one thing, or it might be like there's a whole load of things, and that's okay. You can just take your time and you go in and you mark and then you go out and you mark, and then you go back in and you go out and you mark. So I'm going to lead us through that now. Are there any burning, urgent help type questions, or can we just have a go? Okay, bit lost with what's a part and what's a physical sensation. Great, that's okay. So our parts can take on lots of different forms. It might have a physical sensation. I had some, I'm quite a body person, so I had physical sensations. But it might be that you have a thought. It might be that there's an emotion. So I might check inside and be like, oh, there's a part of me that's now thinking, oh, I hope I'm doing this right. Have I confused them? Oh, so then I'll mark down that I have this part that just had that thought. So whatever you're noticing, chances are it's a part. So you just, whatever you're noticing, you just mark it down. Thanks, Holly. Okay, so let's just take a moment. I just did lots of talking, blah, 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 blah. Maybe let's just take a moment to, if you feel comfortable closing your eyes, you can close your eyes. If you don't, maybe just kind of drop your gaze and come into an internal space. If you want to turn off your video, you can, if that feels better. This is just a little personal exploration for you and your internal parts. So it might feel good to just have a little sigh and drop your shoulders. It might feel good just to notice the ground underneath you. And there's no right or wrong with this. And then just gently inviting your attention into your inside world. You might notice a sensation somewhere in your body. You might notice thoughts or an impulse. Maybe you're like, I'm suddenly really hungry, or I'm actually, oh, I need wee, or I'm thinking about what I need to do later. Maybe a memory pops up, or a fantasy. And just noticing whatever there is. And then just in your own time, whatever's there, marking it on the paper. And at this point, I would invite you to avoid words. That words tend to channel us into different parts of our brain. And mark making really allows the energy of the part to be expressed onto the page. If, of course, you have a part that's like, what? No words? Then, yes, they can add some words at the end. That's absolutely welcome. If you're having a thought, yeah, see if intuitively you can make some kind of mark on the paper that represents that thought for you. If it needs words, then put the words down. It's fine. It was just an invitation to work first with mark making. But if you absolutely need to write your thought down, then do it. It's not a rule of law. It might be that it feels like that thought's kind of up in your head, but it might be that it felt like it came from somewhere else. Again, there's really no right or wrong way of doing this. It's what feels right for you and your system. And we're just going to do this for a little bit longer. And you can all know that, of course, you can do this practice again whenever you like, if it's something that you resonated with. I'm just going to invite you to have a look at what you've done, have a look at your paper, and notice if any parts come up in response to what you've done. It might be that there's a part that has an opinion, that thinks it's a brilliant piece of artwork. There might be a part that's like, that looks rubbish. Or then, or whatever. There might be judgments, or there might be delight, or there might be anything in between. So I just invite you to mark down on the paper any responses you have to what you've done. And if you want to add words in that as well, those words are welcome. And just starting to finish this exercise, just check back in case there are any little parts in there that are like, wait, me, there's me here, hang on. Just taking another check inside. And then just letting your parts inside know, maybe just kind of broadcasting this little message that this isn't their only chance to be seen and known by you, that this is something you can continue doing if it's something that feels good, and that you can build a relationship with them, and that they can be known by you. And yeah, just letting that land in your system. And then just kind of letting your parts know that we're going to draw this little exercise to a close. And I just want to, we've got a few minutes now, maybe just to kind of let that exercise go. It might feel good again to take another deep breath and just let yourself know that we're going to come back into this kind of external environment, having been in an internal space. And I just want to invite you guys to, I guess to ask how was that? How was that experience? And if you want to know anything in the chat, um, we've got a few minutes before the next bit if you want to share how that was. If you had Interstellar, says Hannah. Wow. Okay. Great. Yeah, I mean, if it feels comfortable to share what, to name anything that you noticed, you're very welcome to. There's no pressure to at all. Good to see all the parts as related to one trauma event. Okay, surprising, somehow re reinvigorating. Wow, great. Okay, yeah, so kind of an energizing process. I have a part who never, I think I have a parts who relate to that too. Yeah, parts that feel like they never have enough time. Yeah.
Is there a
Something
difference
happens
between is there a difference between the parts that we feel more outside of us coming in versus just kind of innately showing through?
Not that I would say. Yeah, parts can, at least in my experience in my own system and in client work, they can be in or around the body, and they're still part of the system, and they're just as welcome. Yeah, and that's something that I also didn't say during this process, which is to say that everyone that you noticed is absolutely welcome, and that's a really important part of IFS as well. It might be that you have parts that don't feel the same way, and they're welcome too. Great. Seeing how protectors can create exiles. Interesting. Yeah. Great. So if this feels like something that you'd like to do, you might want to, or you can feel invited to, continue doing this process throughout the rest of this session that we're doing. If you're watching and listening and interacting, you might notice that you have parts with feelings about what's being shared, and you can absolutely note them down on your map. So it's kind of an organic and ongoing process of noticing. I'm just seeing another little point in the chat here. For me, I like the meditative being with my inner world to be visually represented in this way, moment to moment. A lovely way to have an empathic somatic dialogue. Absolutely, beautifully said. Yeah, I couldn't say it better myself. Absolutely. Yeah, I find it's at least for me in my own personal practice, I find it a very helpful way to, well, what's called in IFS unblend, which means that you separate from a part. So when we are blended with a part, we see the world through the eyes of that part. We're kind of in it. And when we do this mark making process, we're able to separate ourselves and have more access to that self energy so that we can come into relationship and, as you say, a kind of somatic dialogue with these parts of ourselves. So it's a really great way of kind of beginning that relationship, of beginning that dialogue. And there are lots of IFS folk that actually say that unblending, that separating process, is the first step to healing. So it's a really important part of the process. A long, slow work of not letting the jagged black and red crown take up the entire page. Interesting. Sounds like there's some parts there that want to take up some more space, which could be, could be a beautiful invitation. I mean, your page could be, I've done some huge maps, which might be something that you're interested in. Cool. I think we are at time for this little exercise. So I'm going to hand back over
Thanks,
to
Saskia.
Holly.
Thank you. Well, this is Angela's bit now, and Angela is not here today because she's not very well, but she proposed that we would have a very short, she calls it squirm, stretch, and shake and sound break. So I'm going to put some music on, and you can move your body. So you can stand up, you can shake, you can go anything you need to kind of let go of all this thinking and get back into your body. So be back with you in a couple of minutes. Ooh.
I'm sitting on my stool, just thinking about the friends I used to know. Summers we spent outside, slapping time on our thighs, smiling at the boys walk by. Then a breeze begins to blow, and I know it's time to go inside. But wait. Birds fly away, they seek shelter, trees stand strong, they don't falter. I'm walking down the street. The people I pass will nod our heads and go. Shuffle our feet away, never more than hello. One more we let slip by. Like a photograph I took, one of many in a book I lost to time. Don't fade away. Turn round. Stay further.
And that was the stretch and squirm and shake and sound break. Hope you all enjoyed that. And yeah, maybe just taking a moment to just notice how that's impacted you, how that changes how your body is, how your heart is, how your mind is. So this is kind of how we work, really. We track ourselves, we track what's going on, and we notice, do you know what, we've been sitting and listening for ages, let's just get into the body. And so we work as a kind of fluid, kind of amorphous kind of blob where each of us takes turns to lead. So working from noticing parts, noticing impulses, noticing what's going on inside, and then each of us will propose something, and that's how we construct our time together. So this bit now is just a little bit where I'm going to talk a little bit about fooling for those who don't know much about that as a practice. So raise your hands if you know about fooling. Fools, 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 fools. Here's some fools. And raise your hands if you don't know about fooling. Yeah. Here's some people that don't know about fooling. Okay, so fooling is a beautiful form of solo improvisation. I have been studying with Frankie Anderson, who is the master of the craft. She is the source. And I have been studying with her for 25 years, because that's how old I am. And it's a beautiful form, which I think saved my life. I've came across it in my early 20s when at the time I thought I was completely riddled with terrible demons, and they wanted me dead. Like I was living with these horrible voices that was just saying really awful things about me most of the time. And I just thought that's who I was, and I just thought that's what I was going to have to deal with for the rest of my life. And when I found Frankie, she taught me to separate my parts. So like Saskia was just talking about, unblending. And it's a form of solo improvisation where each spot on the stage represents a different part of self, and you can move between the parts, you can move in and out, and you just never know what's going to happen. So you walk onto the stage without a plan, you don't have a plan, you don't have a structure, you don't have a score, you just walk onto the stage and you take a moment to feel who's here. And then as soon as you find an impulse, you take a new spot on the stage, and that becomes that part. And you move around and you craft a piece of theatre moment to moment. And the parts can speak, the parts can sing, the parts can dance, the parts can lie on the floor, and whatever they want to do. So some parts really like to be in direct eye contact with the audience, like clown. So kind of drawing on kind of clown skills to be in direct eye contact. Some parts do not want to be in eye contact with the audience. Some parts don't even want to be on the stage at all. So in the workshops that I run, there's quite often off-stage parts that want to go out of the room, parts that want to hide under blankets, and yeah, it can be used both creatively as a form of solo improvisation on the stage, or it can also be used as a form of therapy. And I've been mixing it in with my drama therapy and now IFS therapy for a long time. And oh yeah, thanks Dan for putting in Frankie's details there. So I brought fooling to this group. We were all clowns. We've all trained in clowning in different schools of clowning, but I was bringing in this kind of strand of fooling, and we kind of took that and we ran with it in different ways. And in a moment, we're gonna tell you some vignettes. So we're going to show you a little bit about what we actually did on our lab last April in Yorkshire. We were so. Yeah, so we all got together for that one, and we spent a day kind of feeling into where are we at? Where are we at as humans? What do we want to explore together in this residency? And like, what are our questions? So we sort of spent a day drawing, dancing, writing, kind of feeling into what's here. And then the next day, we decided clown. We wanted to spend more time with clown because we'd kind of gone very heavily into fool, and we wanted to come back into clown. And so we went out into nature, into this beautiful countryside with our red noses, and we were like, well, we'll just put them in our pocket just in case we might want to. And of course, like 4 clowns in a field, it was really, really exciting for us. So we put on our red noses and we interacted with the rain, and we interacted with the sheep, and we interacted with the grass, and it was we hadn't really met in our 4 clowns for an extended period before, and because and we really discovered a lot about each other. And some of us were frightened of me. Okay, some of them were frightened of me. At the time, my clown was very, very mardy. She was really, really angry, and I just wanted to shoot all the birds out of the sky. I was just like bang, like, really violent clowning in nature. And we kept walking into dog walkers. We kept bumping into people that were not clowns, and I was just busy like trying to trash the whole of the English countryside. So that was day 2. And day 3, we decided that we wanted to have an opportunity to have a really long stage full. We wanted to have 45 minutes each on stage to explore a question. Each of us had an inquiry we wanted to explore, and we wanted to have the support of the group and the conditions to be able to fully dive into a question, using these forms of fooling and IFS. And so, because all of us are IFS trained, we could all facilitate each other to discover about parts, but through performance, through embodiment, through performance on stage. And so the next 2 vignettes that you're going to see are going to be from Sarah and Saskia about their findings in these 45-minute performances, improvised performances that they did on our lab. So Sarah, do you feel ready? You do. Okay. I am doing the slides for you. Apologise, it might just take a little moment.
I'm ready as I'll ever be. Yeah. I've got some notes, so I'm trying to look at the screen as well as look at my notes, because I want to get everything. So I'm just checking my time, and I've got 10 minutes. Okay, so what I'm about to tell you, I'm squeezing a hell of a lot in to 10 minutes, and it's like multi-layered. And a big thing happened. And I'll tell you a little bit about that in a moment. But the first thing I want to do is to come up with a basic premise of when we are playing, when we are harnessing like embodiment, using the body, playfulness, creativity in a safe enough environment, this provides a bedrock. So in which, yeah, stuff's going to come up. So our stories, our parts are going to come up, okay, or whatever needs healing or whatever needs to be played with is going to come to the surface. So, and that's exactly what happened. So there's something about trusting in the process. It's trusting maybe with the heart, and not with the mind, so trusting that we're in a really powerful liminal space, and also that the body knows that we each live in a body, and it has this ancient wisdom. And in the Western world, we are fooled into believing that somehow our minds are greater than, and actually something about the body. So really want to stress that. So our personal experiences can come up, but when we're in a group, not only our personal experiences, it can also be our ancestral stories. So Saskia alluded to that a little bit earlier. So, something that's trying to come through, a bit like a kind of, I don't know, water through a rock. It's trying to find its way through, and it might not have been able to do so in previous generations, but it might through our parts in this generation. Okay, so, and all of that is stored in the body. Okay, so if we can leave our minds behind, then the magic begins to happen and things begin to unravel and our parts come up. And it's so fun because we can play with our parts. So this, our lab, I would say it's been performance, but it's also been personal work. It's personal development. It is a know thyself, as Socrates said. And yeah, resonance happens in groups. So when we're in a group of people, whatever it might not just be your own material that you're working with, it might actually be a group resonance. You probably experience that in an audience, something needs to be worked through. In playback theatre, I know it's called the red thread. That there's something unique that needs to be worked through in that particular group of people. So with that premise, also, second thing, we're working with energy. So in some ways, it doesn't really matter whether it's performance or therapy. We're working with our raw data, which is ourselves. And even if it is performance, then all art is a reflection of humanity in some ways. We laugh because we laugh at ourselves or with ourselves or something about our expression of humanity. So I'm not really making a distinction between both of them because performance or theatre or art can be therapeutic. Okay, third thing, fooling, what do I want to say? Brings up, or our particular lab and way we did it, it's bringing up to play with our parts. So it's a kind of a valid journey into understanding and knowing oneself better. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my personal experience of what happened. So with that, I painted a picture, and Holly's going to show you, I'm going to show you bits of this picture, and I'll show you the last bit at the very end. So I think the first thing to say is, and I think Diana said something about shame. I have a part that I know I go into fear when I'm being seen. That dichotomy of I want to be seen, I don't want to be seen. Those two polarization of two parts. I have a part that gets not always, but gets into like really bad fear. And when I go into fear, I kind of dissociate. I have a part that dissociates me and takes me out. And in discovering this part in therapy, it turns out that the part does not like spontaneity. It doesn't like it when I'm ad-libbing, when I'm being when I'm improving, or hence, fooling, clowning. It doesn't like it because it doesn't know what I'm going to say, because it's really scared that I'm going to shame myself. I'm going to say something in which you're all going to say, that's terrible. We have to shun her. She's like an awful human being. We don't like her. She's just, I don't know, she's depraved or something. And so something about that fear. So I went into this fooling that Holly was telling you about with this fear. My inquiry was, how can I discover my parts, a playful state, without going into a frozen state? So prior to starting the fooling, we'd already agreed that if I could feel a kind of, I literally get taken out, by something like I'm out of my body, that we would stop, and that the Holly, Angela, and Saskia would help me unblend. We'd find a way to unblend. So we went into that. The first part that came up for me was this baby bird, which I kind of know, this part of myself. And it's around grief and loss, and it's very, very, very young, and it's about being lost. Next slide, please, Holly. So as I spoke to you about the fear is just, it didn't actually happen, but I could feel it. The fear is like falling through space. It's like some kind of death. It's like being with the unknown. It's like being lost in this kind of universe, forever and ever and ever. And the one before, which was that I could notice a gripping part that kind of holds on. So if it's in terms of performance, it tries a bit too hard. It braces. It's trying to control something. Look, there's quite a few parts involved, and then it goes into the fear. But I was able, in this case, to stay with the unknown. I could feel it hovering around this part, but it didn't take over. So not next slide, but the slide after, Holly. Great. So as I allowed myself to go into the process and trust my body and just be with what was trying to come through, which is spacious, I began to feel in my body this sort of metaphor of a stormy sea, this kind of feeling of agitation and chaos and sort of shaking. I didn't know with my head what all of that was about, and there was sound, there were images coming up in my mind, there was the elements, there was the wind. But it's kind of like with the elements is action, is movement. And then to the next slide. And then emerged this other energy of slithering and sliding, and I was kind of like crawling around on my elbows, a sense of kind of coming out of the sea. I didn't know that. I just had this feeling that I've come out of the sea, some kind of feeling of evolution. So I wasn't just in my own story, I was in a greater human story at the same time. And then from that moved on to the next phase, which was suddenly feeling like I began to crawl on my hands and my knees and find rhythm and find the ground and take great interest in small, tiny things, and real curiosity, and began exploring like a toddler. Really feeling like a toddler, exploring, seeing the minutest of things, which then led on to this other stage of that transformed into this kind of, I don't know, it was kind of a meow cat, feline, tactile sense of something around touch and sensuality, and my audience that were there, I was it felt a very safe audience, that they were there, and I invited them to sort of stroke me, and which felt gorgeous and wonderful. And something about being in the body, in the physical sensation, and connection and attachment, and being there with them, and it was so powerful. I can feel this feeling sort of really coming up in me, which then turned into da-da, who you saw at the beginning. Candy emerged. I mean, she didn't just emerge. I literally went off stage, banged and clattered around, and put on a costume, and she emerged, and suddenly something came out of my mouth, almost like the antithesis of this baby bird, the antithesis of, in many ways, of me, but very alive, very present, very don't give a fuck. And out she came, and there was a sense of utter liberation. And she is larger than life, and this character, this part of me that was wanting to be born, came, and now I have her as part of my kind of collection, that she's there. I can draw on her in many ways. So that was the birth of Candy. And the key thing I want to say is that I discovered parts that I kind of knew about, but something about working through the body, with the body, it was like years, and I don't know, something about entering that liminal space and working with the body. It was like years of psychotherapy. Suddenly, in 45 minutes, just everything started to land in me. And I didn't have a cognitive realization about a lot of this stuff until much later. But I've been over it, and like reflected on it, and then I painted, because that's the other thing I do, is I paint, because that's my other way of expressing that's non-verbal. And yeah, something about my own creativity, something about my own healing, something, I'm not quite really what I want to leave it on a punchy kind of last sentence, but I can't really tell you how amazing it was to discover Candy, to have done that fooling. It feels like it sort of took years off me. And the other thing to say is, I'm not sure that Candy was just mine. I think there were aspects of her that I embodied from the group. But she was a force to be reckoned with, and she's a healing female energy. And that is me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Sarah. Have you seen all these hearts that are coming for you of the Candy?
Lovely.
There's a lot of love
Gorgeous.
happening
Thank
here for
you.
Candy.
Thank you so
and
much.
I can verify she'll never get back in a box, that Candy. So she's out now. She's out.
Yeah.
So that was the first of our two vignettes looking at our 45-minute solo slots and our explorations. And yeah, for contrast, we wanted to offer you, yeah, I mean, we're all doing very different things, but Saskia's vignette is, yeah, a really different way of using this same form, but to discover such different stuff. So over to you, Saskia Bombaskia.
Thank you, Holly McStoppit. Yeah, wow, I was just really enjoying listening to that, Sarah. Just like reliving the whole Candy experience was just mwah. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to talk about my experiment, which was around a curiosity that Holly and I actually both explored, but I'm going to talk about what I did, which was around what happens if we invite the red nose, quite literally, the red nose, into the fooling format. So inviting the nose as one of the parts that we play in that fooling format where you're playing your different parts on stage. And this was a curiosity that had kind of stemmed from different places, but for me, it was, I think, partly coming from parts of me that were like, what is clown? Who is clown? Is it a part? Is it self? What is it? I don't understand. And that maybe was from being in, so many different clowning workshops where people offer very different things and call it clown. And it's like, I don't understand. So, yeah, so there was this curiosity around what happens when we bring the nose into the fooling. And so that's what we did. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what happened, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what I think it means. So, Holly, first slide, please.
This might just take me a little minute. Hang on a second.
Sure, you do that and I'll carry on talking. So the photos that you're going to see are actually still shots from the experiment that I was doing. And you will notice that I'm quite heavily pregnant in these photographs. So there's a part of me that's like, oh, I don't look my best. Anyway, so yeah, these were stills that were taken from this experiment that I did. And I actually chose to begin with the nose. So the first photograph that you will see is me. I'm not in full costume. I'm just, wearing me clothes, but with the nose on. So here I am interacting with this lovely blue and yellow curtain, which became quite a theme in my particular my show. Yes, my clown really enjoyed playing with this curtain. So next slide, please. There I am being diagonal with the curtain. And at this point in my exploration, I felt very much in the clown state. I felt very playful. I was interacting and playing with my environment. I felt connected to my audience. And then I started to feel a kind of creeping fear that started to draw me out of that clown state, of that kind of playful flow state, which is when we met. Next slide, please. This part of me. So at this point, I could feel this fear, and so I took off the nose. I stepped out of the clown part, and I came into this part, which, as you can see, has its back to the audience, is kind of hunched over, cowering, doesn't want to interact at all, and is a young, really quite a young, scared child part that came up in that environment. So what happened next? Next slide, please. Was I stepped out of that child and came into connection with this self energy that we spoke about, that Sarah spoke about earlier in her description of IFS, this kind of innate wise healer. And I came into connection, we don't have a photograph of that, unfortunately, but I came into connection with this child and was able to ask it what it needed in that moment. And what it was really craving was some safety, some security, some containment. And so this blanket kind of just emerged quite naturally. It was in the space and it just felt like the right thing. So I wrapped this blanket around this part. And then I stepped back into the part. So here I am again as the child with this blanket. And then, that's fine, that's okay, you can go on to the next one. And then after this, there's this containment of this little one. I was able to step back into the red nose. So here I am again with the red nose on, but I'm actually looking at this child part with the blanket on. So I'm kind of in, yeah, I'm in direct relationship with this young part as the nose, but I'm also in relationship with the audience. So there's this kind of triangle. And what I felt in that moment was that my clown at that moment had a lot of this self energy in it. It felt like it was really being channeled full of this, like, of this connective, compassionate energy. And next slide, please. And here you can see me again in relationship with this young child. So the blanket is there in the space, holding the space for us for this young child. So the child is very much still there, and I'm in the clown, kind of relating with this part and building a relationship. And what emerged from that point was that the child felt, it wasn't like a kind of silver bullet healing, but it felt that there was enough containment and enough relationship, that there was some eye contact between us, that there was a sense of connection. And that gave rise to another part. Next slide, please. Which is this part that I have met, and I've met in numerous occasions. It comes up in Fooling quite a lot. It's also been in various performances. It came up in my Edinburgh show, and I call it the mischief maker. And as its name might allude, it causes mischief, and it had a lot of fun playing with the curtain. Next slide, please. Inevitably tangled itself, got itself all tangled up. There was stuff. I was in the kitchen. I think tangerines were thrown. It's a wild and playful force. That likes to have this kind of haha, you can't stop me kind of energy. So that's a little whistle stop tour of what happened and what I did. And what I like to do now in the last few minutes is just to talk about what I drew from this experience. So the format itself I found totally revelationary for me personally as a practitioner, both personally and professionally, because what it allowed me to do was to slow down the clown process, because so often it feels like the clown state is this kind of enigmatic, sort of slippery thing that so you're in it and then you're not in it, and it's like, what is it? How is it? Where is it? And it all seems to kind of happen so fast, and then it's finished and you're off, and you're like, I don't know what happened. So to be able to just slow it down, to notice when parts were coming into that clown state, and to be able to separate them out in space and get to know them and understand who they were and what they were needing, felt like it was such a relief, actually, just an amazing and exciting kind of potential thing to find. And what I learned was that some parts of us, and I'm not saying this is like I have learned the absolute truth. It's just this is how it felt to me in the moment, and also in my reflection time, because as Sarah said, and obviously a lot of this has these conclusions have come to me in my reflection afterwards. That there are parts of us that can be channeled into the nose, like the mischief maker, for example. It feels very naturally that it comes into the clown, the kind of that kind of clown container, and then brings in a different flavor to the clown. So this kind of wild, mischievous kind of chaos creator. And when I feel then that when there's like enough of that self energy in the clown, those parts can kind of filter in slowly and become what we call a build, right? So there's an escalation of the energy of this particular part. Then there are parts that I feel that interrupt that flow state of the clown, that kind of come in and so you feel like, oh God, I'm losing it, I'm slipping it, I don't feel connected, I don't feel playful. And that's when we separate out and I meet this young child exile that feels safe, feels unsafe and feels really vulnerable. So and that's when there's an invitation to perhaps do some work with that part. Maybe there's work that happens in the moment to make it feel safe enough for play to continue, or maybe the play needs to stop and actually a whole healing process needs to happen. The last thing I want to say is that this format allowed me to do something which I found very exciting, which was to feel with quite a lot of clarity how each of those parts viewed the audience. what they were projecting onto the audience, or what they were or how were they casting the audience. So what I've done is I've assigned a little object to each of those parts that I was working with. So here I have the red nose. That's for the red nose. Then I have this little owly chew toy, which is my child's actual child. That's my actual chew toy. For the scared, that's the scared young child. Then the mischief maker, I have these matches because it's a little fire starter. And then there's self. There's the compassionate, wise self, which I have this beautiful fossil, which feels like a kind of ancient, wise being. And so Holly is going to bring up, hopefully, my last slide, which is my exceptionally rudimentary diagram, homemade diagram, which outlines how those parts were viewing the audience. So if we start with the red nose down the bottom, it says audience. And again, this isn't like, ultimate truth. This is what it felt like to me in that time. So the audience feels like playmate, it feels like comrade, it feels like a joyful witness of what's happening. Then if we go over to the little owly chew toy scared child, we see that the audience for that particular part is a parent who might abandon, which of course feels like a very, very risky witness with very high stakes. If you get it wrong, you're alone. So that's not a place that you can play from. Then if we go over to the left, there's the mischief maker where there's those pile of matches, and the audience feels like a kind of maybe like a younger sibling, or maybe even like a disempowered parent that has a lot of kind of like, haha, you can't stop me kind of energy. And it feels like the audience feels like a sort of witness of this delightful, delicious chaos. And then at the top, there's the fossil, which is the self energy, which is this kind of compassionate, this compassionate self space. So it feels like the audience are connecting into that. So they feel like compassionate colleagues. They're a connective selves. And there's this, this compassionate, curious witness state. So, and you can see there, I've drawn a little arrow from the self down to the red nose, because it feels like, at least for me in that exploration, there was a lot of that energy getting channeled into that nose. And so that it allowed all of these other parts to kind of come in and out. And I think that's kind of what I wanted to share. I realize I've said a lot of words in quite a short time. But it felt to me like a really, just a very exciting possibility to slow that clown process down and to get a better sense of, as a performer, and as a human in my own process, who's there and who channels into the play, who interrupts the play. And I think it's something that actually could be a process that is, could be really amazing for all kinds of performers in different ways, but also not just performers. But I definitely found that coming into that performance space and having the audience there, brings up parts. And and it was amazing to have that support from the group. So I'm going to stop talking because it's like 18 minutes past 5.
Thank you, Saskia. That was really gorgeous to relive that as well. There's been lots of love coming up for you as well. So we're going to come back to all your questions. There is going to be a Q&A, but because we've just said so many words, just want to have another couple of minutes of just shake, stretch, whatever you want. And so in this couple of minutes, maybe just notice if a question comes, and then we'll have a 10 minutes of Q&A. So enjoy the tunes for a couple of minutes.
Thanks, Holly.
I go out walking after midnight, out in the moonlight, just like we used to do. I'm always walking after midnight, searching for you. I walk for miles along the highway, well, that's just my way of saying I love you. I'm always walking after midnight, searching for you. I stopped to see a weeping willow crying on his pillow. Maybe he's crying for me. And as the skies turn gloomy, night will whisper to me, I'm lonesome somewhere I'm walking after midnight searching for me. I stopped to see a weeping willow crying on his pillow. Maybe he's crying for me. And as the skies turn gloomy, night winds whisper to me, I'm lonesome as I can be. I go out walking after midnight, out in the moonlight, just hoping you may be somewhere walking after midnight, searching for me.
That was the request of Angela, our fourth member who can't be here today. That was her request. Oh. So we're coming to the end of our time together. We've got 10 minutes to field any questions that you might have about what we get up to. There's some questions there already. Thank you for your questions. And yeah, you can unmute and speak if you'd like to speak. Oh, thank you. That's a very nice compliment in there. That last song was Patsy Cline, Walking After Midnight.
Yeah, there was a request for the earlier song as well, I think, for earlier on.
I don't know what it is. I could look it up in a bit if I've got time.
Megan Costello, you have your hand up.
Hi, yes. I am wondering, I love all of this so much. I really want to do it. I don't have a group accessible to me, like who to do this work with. Is there a way to practice parts of it alone? Or do you have any ideas for how one might find a group to do it with? Or
Yeah, thanks, Megan. Yeah, I mean, we started on Zoom and it's possible to do a lot of this stuff on Zoom. So yeah, there's people all over the world, I guess, that you can tune into. I write a lot. I write a blog, and so I wrote about our first play day that we had together, and so I gave all of the exercises that we did there that you could do in your own space. And I'll put a link to that in the chat box. So yeah, there's lots of stuff on the blog. There's a whole section on my blog about exercises to try at home, which is like a lot of the stuff that we've been developing through our various labs and projects. You can follow along there. But in terms of like who else is doing this, we're pretty unique. We're a pretty unique group, and we're sort of pioneering this stuff. And there will be a time when we offer trainings together. I'm offering trainings myself, but not so much online at the moment. But there will be a time when we offer this for other people to be able to join in with us. And the best way to find out about that is to join my mailing list on Holly Stoppit. You go on hollystoppit.com down to the bottom, get onto the mailing list, and we will tell you as soon as we've got something live. We'll let you know there. Yeah, anything you want to add, Sarah or Saskia?
Just that, yeah, I think this, the mapping that we did earlier is a great way to get in touch with your parts, and also you can, if it feels kind of safe and interesting to you, and if there are parts that want to come off the page and be, and be embodied, that's something that I do as part of my exploration. So you don't. I would really follow your, also just feel invited to follow your intuition. If you want to kind of play, yeah, be invited to play with what comes up. There are more hands and not a lot of time.
Okay, yeah, let's go with Paige.
Yeah, hi. Am I unmuted now? Okay, great. Okay, so first of all, thank you all so much for your work. Really appreciate this. So grateful to be here with you all. Also, I hate Zoom so much, so please excuse I'm just not very good at communicating this way. In that regard, just a little introduction. I am in MFT, Marriage and Family Therapy School, about to be finished actually with internship. Via clown. I kind of was like, oh, this clown shit, and it's kind of like therapy. And then I'm interested, and this is where my question is. have you all, is any of your work rooted in the Cheryl Karp 1997 clown therapy paper?
Yeah,
Okay,
I included that in my
you
dissertation when
did.
I
Okay,
did
cool.
my dissertation on clowning and therapy. At the time, this was 2013, there were only two published papers on
Yes.
clowning for therapy. This is a lot later, and there's like a lot more. It feels like there's a lot more kind of springing up, but at the time there were literally two. It was that one. It was Jeff Gordon,
Yes.
who lives in Israel. Those were the two papers I could find. So yeah, there's definitely more research needed.
Yeah, and I was just curious because and that's where I'm coming in is if I really we want to be a part of that. And actually to that point, any I forget who asked about it, but I'm interested in doing on this stuff online as well. So if anyone wants to form a group after this, I'm happy to. But yeah, I'm interested because there's a conversation about the clown body and the way that the clown body emulates the self. And I'm interested if any of that is also a part of this feels similar but different also. And I'm just interested in your thoughts on that.
Mm.
You want to take that, Saskia?
Hmm. Hmm. Um, well, it's interesting. Your question reminded me of a very somatic clown process that I did with a clown teacher in Padova in Italy called Giovanni Fusetti. Yeah, yeah, you're nodding. Okay.
He also comes to Boulder once a year.
Yes, he does come to Boulder once a year. Exactly. Yeah. So it's very interesting. I found that the work that I did with him, and just for those who haven't done that training, it's a very, very somatic based way of finding a clown state and a clown personality, character. Um, and I found that it kind of, I would say it's sort of, from my experience, it kind of tiptoed alongside this work in the sense that I felt very aware of the parts that were in my body that were informing that clown mask. There wasn't an invitation to go towards them and kind of understand them more fully, which is why I think this work kind of speaks to me, yeah, speaks to that desire to know those parts better. I don't know if that answers the question.
Thanks, Saskia. Two more hands. Christy.
Just real quickly, what was the name of the person?
Cheryl Karp.
Gerald Carp.
Cheryl.
Oh,
Cheryl.
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 Thanks.
Christy.
All right. Thank you so much. I've loved every minute of this. Earlier, Saskia said something like those parts can kind of filter in slowly and become what we call a build. Could you say a little bit more about that concept, build? I just want a little more clarity. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the question. So I was talking in kind of clown performance terms, in the sense that, when you're creating a show, or if you're on stage, and um, there's a build um, of character and of action and of drama, and so that it kind of comes, often you'll see this on stage, that it's, it might start with a little game that they notice, the clown notices an object, and then it becomes a game, and then it becomes a thing, and then it becomes, and it crescendos and it crescendos and it crescendos to some kind of climax, and that's what you call a build. So if you're allowing your parts in the clown state to kind of filter in, like for example, that mischief maker, first of all, it might come in as like a little glint in the eye. And then it might come into, comes more into the body. And then it might notice something. And then it's climaxing at the point where it's like running around the stage, throwing tangerines at people. That's the da, 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 da. So that's what I meant when I said a build. I hope
Okay.
that clears
Thank you
things
so
up.
much for answering that question.
Thanks, Saskia. Just to let you know that there's a thread here in the chat of people who want to be part of a clown therapist group. So if you're wanting to be part of that, put your email address in the chat, and then we're basically going to take over the world, people. Maggie,
That's
over
right.
to you.
First of all, a huge hello to you all, but especially to Sarah Burns, who I studied with in drama therapy. So I'm so thrilled. I'm so thrilled. I can't even tell you. This whole session has been absolutely amazing, and your presentation as well, Sarah. I honestly mean this, and you know it anyway. Thank you so much.
Lovely to see you, Maggie.
Oh, I feel really warm-hearted, and it's just, yeah, such an honor. to be with you guys. I've been following your work for quite a while now, but it's really hard because I don't live in Bristol or the areas where you guys are. So I think that these options about online possibilities sound really exciting. I have, let's say, two questions. I'll just try and put it to that. How would you describe if you would? I know you've talked about this already, but if you could help with this would be really interesting, I think, for me. How would you describe the integration process? Do you feel that then the body is like already reached the point where it's just it will be so confident, let's say, or does it take many days sometimes to integrate this, depending on who is, really taking the healing aspect of it, let's say? This may not be linear, and I really get that, but I'm wondering about the integration of it and also the benefits of it for your own selves and bodies. And your colleague has a chronic health challenge from what I heard.
Yeah, I'm going to hand this over to Sarah because I think Sarah's queen of integration.
Yeah. That's a big question, but in a nutshell, Maggie, I guess it depends, what we integrate or how much access we have. It depends on who's in the driving seat. If our parts are in the driving seat, then we might not have much access to self. However, we are also in a playful form. We're in an environment in which we can play, so we can get to play with our parts. And that is sort of having self-energy, if you like, and a self-to-part relationship. So it's something to do with the power of the form, and that all parts are welcome, even our kind of darkest parts we want to hide from, humanity. We can invite them in and like play with them and embody them and somehow. Oh, and by the way, this is maybe answers your question. All parts have self-energy.
Yeah.
So it's complex and it's fractal, and I'm not going to get into the science of it, but in a nutshell, and I realize I'm not quite answering your question, but anyway, that's as much as I can do for now. But please, I don't know, contact me and I'll give you a fuller answer.
I will do that. I will do that just to reconnect anyway. And it's helpful because I can see it in yourselves and as you guys talk that there is literally benefits there, but you're pioneers of this work, really. So it's very, very interesting, and huge congratulations because it takes a lot of courage as well.
Oh, thanks, Maggie.
Thank
Nice
you.
to hear. So
Yes,
I'm just putting some links into the chat, which is I think maybe that's too many. Okay, which is like ways to kind of keep on exploring this work. I mean, this is like the IFS side of the work. Here we go. There's just like it doesn't like very many words in the chat, does it? You have to do it a little bit at a time. Let's take that off. That's going in. So these are some of the things that have been influencing us, and obviously we've all been trained through the IFS Institute, so we've all done the official training. And Sarah, in fact, is one of the trainers now. She's on her way to being one of the trainers. She's an assistant trainer. So we have all been trained that route. These are kind of books to kind of get you started. No Bad Parts is a good one to look at by Richard Swartz. Internal Family Systems, Making a Start and Getting Curious. This is a new book out by Emma Redfern, and some of my words are in it. Yes, yes, yes. And then there's the Somatic Internal Family Systems Therapy workbook. That's very, very practical. Lots and lots of things that you can try. Body-based, using breath, using movement, using body. And then there's the IFS Institute and the IFS UK. And on both of those, you'll be able to find IFS therapists, and you'll be able to look at the training, look at how you can begin that training track if that's something you're interested in. And please add us to your clown therapy group. We'd love to be part of that. I put my I'm really glad that somebody's taken this on. Thank you, whoever took this on, the mission to do that. And I'm wondering, closing words, Saskia or Sarah or me.
My closing words are that creativity in whatever format, as human beings, oh my gosh, if they take away creativity, they take away our humanity. And actually, when we can be human, we can put that energy back out into the world and we can make a difference.
I think so.
Thanks, Sarah. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I feel absolutely thrilled by all of you guys being here with us and being interested in this, and that we're now going to take over the world as the clown therapy group, and and yeah, I just feel I feel a bit buzzy and delighted. That's not very yeah, that's how it is.
Thanks, Saskia. And yeah, I think I just want to say that anyone can do what we've done in terms of this kind of creative lab. It's completely self-financed, and we've just kind of figured it out. Like, the one we did in Nottingham, we just nicked somebody's house. She was going away on holiday, and so we took over her house, and we are constructing these labs off our own back. We're not funded, and I don't know. There's something that feels so maverick, but also so urgent and necessary, that you don't have to wait to do it properly. You don't have to wait for the funding. You don't have to wait to, you can just get a bunch of mates together and find a place to be and work it out when you get there, which is exactly our ethos. We just work it out moment to moment. How does everybody feel? What happens next? And then somebody will step into the leadership. So I don't know, there's something for just like, get on with it. Get on with it. If you've got this idea, get on with it, but get some friends in the room with you. Don't do it by yourself. Nobody has to do it all by themselves. And I think that's really the power of our group, is that we create these conditions where we can take these really brave risks, and we are discovering new forms, and we're discovering new things about ourselves through this care and through this, through all of this time that we spent together building these relationships. And yeah, do it. Grab a bunch of mates, get in a room, play till you've worked something out.
Clown virgins, we're getting together to make the world better. Clown virgins, we'll make you laugh and play, we'll take your blues away. There ain't no place I'd rather be. You're lighter than the sun and the stars to me. Everybody's family at the Clown Virgins.